Hello. Okay, so this channel has kind of gone dormant, and I'm really sorry about that. It's because I got COVID. It really threw me for a loop. I'm much better now, thank you, but haven't been able to get back to the channel. But I did have to throw up this quick video about established titles because it's all over the internet right now, and it is hilarious, but also deeply wrong in a way that harms what I think is a perfectly harmless company. So I really wanted to say something about it. Back to regular programming after this, which means I will try to get the channel up more formally and more completely very soon. But anyway, so Established Titles is this company that offers an internet novelty gift that was, advertised on all of the podcasts and the YouTube channels and everything. And then one YouTuber came out saying it's a scam. And also, by the way, the YouTuber calling it a scam also named every single advertiser and told them to take it down, which I find actually that to be really pushy and kind of scammy. They should do their own due diligence, and some of them did. And Emily D. Baker, who is someone I really like and respect, has a video on this. I suggest you watch it. Legal Eagle, who I also subscribe to and also respect, kind of less so after this, I have to say, did a video calling Established Titles a scam that is based on perfect example of crap internet research versus the real thing, which I'm going to explain to you today. So it's a perfect topic for my channel, I hate to say. Not otherwise dissing Legal Eagle, which I think is a great channel. By all means, go subscribe. But his video on established titles is, I'm sorry, it's just stupid. It's so stupid. Most of this is stupid. The initial one exposing them as a scam is stupid. It's really about the fact that Americans, I think this poor company just didn't know what they were getting into advertising to Americans, because Americans are idiots about titles, which is, by the way, a lovable characteristic. We are lucky to be idiots about titles. It is so wonderful about our culture that we don't have to give a shit about titles or understand them in the least. Thank God for that, right? We should love that and celebrate it rather than like torching this poor company because we failed to understand what they were offering as a European company coming from a European place with a European tradition that frankly is understood on a nonverbal level by people who come from those cultures in a way that Americans just don't get. And the problem is we don't get what we don't get. We don't understand how little we actually get it. We think because, we watch movies, we read novels, we understand how titles work. And by the way, quick side story. When I was a graduate student in European history, I was contacted by a historical novelist who asked me how titles worked in, I think it was 19th century Eastern Europe. So I went to the library to collect the correct book that explains it all in detail, legal and customary and all of those things, and gave her that information. And she was like, okay, whatever, that was more than I needed. And I was just like, if you wanted to do this right, you were supposed to go get that book. And contacting some random graduate student trusting me to give you the right information, which I did, but not everyone would, is not research. That's not research. And that was like early days of the internet. That was back in like 2000, 2001. That was the research people were doing. And they consider that research, which is just boggling. The actual research is getting the book that I got, but in order to be able to find that book, go straight to it as I did, that was based already in many years of study. The thing is, expertise actually has meaning because it represents years and years of experience. It's like getting a carpenter or a dentist who's incredibly experienced at what they do versus someone still in school or who's faking it, which frankly, most of these people talking the internet are faking it. Anyway, so let me get back on track. So established titles, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. You can find it on a million videos. And they're actually completely upfront about it on their site. What I'm going to talk about is titles. Okay, so established titles, what they're actually selling is they take your money and they give some of it to organizations that plant trees in Scotland. It is primarily about preservation in Scotland, but they've turned it into a profitable little, and profit's not illegal. I thought these people like capitalism. I'm not that huge a fan of it, but all these people who love it are like, this is a scam. The point is they're charging some money for the novelty gift, which is the packaging. A lot of times novelty gifts are about packaging. This is packaging that says, oh, look, you own a 1 by 1 square foot of Scotland. But by the way, you can feel warm and fuzzy because you are planting a tree in Scotland, which is very, very valuable. And by the way, let's preserve the natural areas of Scotland. That's what this is actually about. They find a way to get people all over the world to do that. How many people who bought an established title for the fun of it would have just bought a tree in Scotland regardless? I would say none. So this is actually worthwhile. Yes, you're paying money. Yes, that money goes to this company. That's capitalism. But it also gets all these trees planted that would not have otherwise been planted. That's the point. What you're getting is the packaging And yes, it costs more to like get the physical certificate. I think they should have just sent that with the title. But what you're getting is the ability to call yourself a laird or lady, and this is based on an actual custom in Scotland that anybody who owns land is sort of automatically a laird or lady, because in Scotland, they didn't want the staff to be something that's only deferred by kings and queens like many other titles are, because they've, had issues with kings and queens and who's there are and all that. So it just kind of comes with owning land. That's the traditional, going back to the clans and all that. It's traditional political setup in Scotland that anybody who owns land is a laird or a lady. So if you own a 1 by 1 square foot. Now, Legal Eagle did some research, quote unquote, that you're not literally owning, you're actually contracting with established titles for your 1 by 1 square foot of land. And that 1 by 1 square foot of land is not actually enough to be a laird, according to tradition. Duh! Like, if you didn't get that, the thing is, yes, it is enough, and it's not enough to be a laird or a lady, because being called a laird or a lady is a courtesy title. The problem with Legal Eagle's one-step Google research is, well, two major flaws. One major flaw is he doesn't know the difference between a title that comes with a role, that the role has meaning, and a purely courtesy title, which is bullshit, to put it bluntly. And it's bullshit when it's used by fancy people in fancy clothes who think they're better than you, and it's bullshit when you use it just for fun. Equally bullshit, okay? It's no less bullshit for the Americans who bought a 1 by 1 foot contract of land from established titles to go around calling themselves lord or lady for fun, is exactly the same as the vast majority of European aristocracy who call themselves lord or ladies or count or countess or whatever. Most of them are courtesy titles. A courtesy title means other people are courteous if they use it according to the people who want you to use it. Right? So if you tell everyone you meet, to be truly polite, I need you to refer to me as a lord or a lady, you can do that. And some people will call you it and some people won't. And guess what? You're exactly the same as all of European aristocracy. That is the same. There is no more to it. That's all it's ever been. The difference why it feels more real in Europe, right, is centuries of, frankly, oppression by a very tiny, very wealthy elite who had the power to make people actually use these bullshit titles they made up. But that's all it is. There's also, so the other major flaw in Legal Eagle's research is he took the existence of British institutionalized bodies who control these titles as the same as law. It's not law. These are bodies the monarchy has created over time to officiate over the use of titles. That's all bullshit, right? That's all the same level of bullshit. This is all people with wealth and power saying, you call me what I want you to call me so that I feel superior, so you think I'm superior. It reflects my superiority socially, politically, financially, all of those things, right? That's what titles always have been. And as long as they can be enforced, i.e. the vast poor of us don't go, hey, that's bullshit, I'm not going to use it anymore, then it's a title. When we say, hey, that's not bullshit, I'm not going to use it more, then it's not a title. That's all it is. There's a little bit of a difference in titles that come with roles, like, say, the king or the queen. Or as he pointed out in Legal Eagle pointed out in his video, according to these official bodies, right, which are not law. He admits he doesn't know British law, but he doesn't know the difference between law and monarchy. You can't do this kind of research in a one-step Google search. Anyway, ask a historian. We're here. There's so many of us. Just ask a freaking historian. It would save you like the 50 million searches it would take to actually get to the real answer. Just saying. Anyway, so there are roles that have real meaning, including legal meaning, like king, right? It has a constitutional place in Britain, right? Also, the owner of a complete estate, which he mentioned are like recognized by these official bodies, right? Like the Earl of whatever, a real estate. Until the 20th century, or well into the 20th century, there was a very meaningful role attached to large property owners. They actually have all kinds of had, past tense, a lot of obligations, as well as vast wealth and power that goes with that, right? So that is connected to owning the estate. So there is something real there, but it's not in the title. The real part is the job, the role, the running of the estate, or the being the figurehead for a country as in a constitutional monarch, or obviously the actual power of being an absolute monarch in other European countries. And let's remember, by the way, that titles are not exclusive to Britain, and we're actually talking about England versus Scotland, which is what established titles is all about. Scotland is a different European country with different rules. So even though it's obviously part of the UK now, for legal eagle to be looking up 21st century UK law, not law actually, monarchical traditions established in institutions over time, isn't saying anything about Scotland. I know he looked up modern Scotland too, but it's so rife with problems. Anyway, so all over Europe, there were absolute monarchs. That is absolutely a legal position. And obviously it comes with a title. But the title is just a thing that comes with it. And again, it's just a courtesy thing. It's like, dude, you're so important. You could kill me at the drop of a hat. Sure, I'm going to call you Your Majesty, right? But the Your Majesty bit, which is just a form of address, actually, but the title of king or monarch or tsar or emperor or whatever, is a courtesy that someone with enough power can demand of you. The power is the real part. So I think it was always super clear that established titles was not selling you power. And if you thought there was something more real to that, that's on us as Americans not getting what a courtesy title is. Like I've seen people in the comments mention, like there was a dude in California who referred to himself as the emperor of America or something. I don't remember the story. But like, yeah, anybody can do that anytime. It's just as real and not real. You know how like the Queen was taking the HRH away from Diana and then away from Harry and Meghan or whatever? Yeah, the Queen can just say, no, we're not going to call you that anymore because you're in the doghouse. That's all that is. And it's just as absurdly meaningless as it sounds. That's actually how it's always been. The meaning part is the power that comes with vast wealth and legal power for those who were, not bound by a constitution to be a mere figurehead. That's real. It comes with a title in European history, but the title wasn't the real part. And it wasn't getting the title that actually gives you that power. You inherited that power, and that comes with a courtesy title. So anyway, I hope that's clear and that makes sense. I could go on and on about how this works actually in other European countries, because it is slightly different in all European countries. But the principle that titles are just a courtesy thing that fancy people can ask of you. And if you want to feel fancy, or if you want to, give the finger to the entire system of wealth and power over centuries that is Europe based and has done, frankly, a ton of harm in the world, if you want to give the finger to that and call yourself a lord or a lady or king or emperor or whatever, bless you, do it. And if anyone chooses to also call you that, that's up to them. And if they don't, they don't. That's how titles work. Now, if you want to buy a contract to a 1-by-1 plot of land in Scotland in order to get that tree planted and maybe to get the novelty certificate as a gift for a loved one this Christmas, have fun. If you have that kind of money to spend, and by the way, since all of this scandal, it seems to be on a huge sale right now, it's such that I was even tempted. I saw it when it was first advertised by Emily Baker. I thought, brilliant, brilliant. F you to the concept of titles, particularly on behalf of Scotland, which has been, the English monarchy has done horrendous shit to Scotland over a very long period of time. So that's part of why Laird and Lady was kind of an easier title to get, to put any landholder of Scotland on a theoretically social level with the landholders of England who had to get this right from the king or the queen, right? That was the point of why they did it. And so for this to be from Scotland and to involve reforestation of Scotland, which is a really important environmental thing to do, I think is great. It still is great. They are very clear about what exactly it is. If you fail to understand that as an American who doesn't get titles, that's on us not understanding. It's not on the company. The company is clear. It's very clear. And like Legal Eagle says when the checkout process, they're upselling you to these other things. It doesn't look like an upsell, but if you read the fine print, the print is the explanation that this is an upsell. And he read it and understood it, just like every other buyer can do. And is this any different from buying anything else in this capitalist world we live in? Upselling is kind of the point. He points out how much money they make. Yeah, that's the point. And they're clear about it. They're a company trying to make money like every other one. Capitalism, right? The entire thing is a really good joke. It remains a cool novelty gift if you have that kind of money and you have someone in your life who would really enjoy the joke. I was really strongly tempted for my husband because we both studied 19th century Europe where there's a lot of title bullshit. By the way, I've read documents signed by emperors and I've, touched their signatures and been like, you're not my emperor, you're just a dude. Ha 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 ha. Because it makes me feel a little bit good after all the centuries of oppression to like put people in their place. Because they're all humans just like us. They all fart and poop and do all the same things as everyone else, whether they want to be called by a title or not. And by the way, I'll end this with my favorite story, which is one of the descendants and a possible theoretical claimant for the Romanov family, if you want to pretend that has any meaning whatsoever. And I would argue as a historian of the Romanov monarchy that it absolutely does not. After 70 years of Bolshevik rule and now a post-Soviet Russia, there are people who are descendants of the Romanov line who claim to be, like the real living, I think it's a Tsarina at this point, or whether her son is inherited. I don't know. No one gives a shit. But one of the, frankly, more direct descendants who would theoretically, if, there were still a monarchy, which there isn't, if there was anyone who still cared about this, lives in California. He goes by Andy, even though he has a theoretical right to the title of Prince Andrew as much as you or I do, i.e. it's an inherited courtesy title. He goes by Andy and he makes Shrinky Dink art. And he's my favorite dude. And we'll leave it there. Thanks.